Welcome to the Level Up Artist Podcast. We're your hosts, Adriana M.A. and
Jackie Sanders. We are two art professionals sharing forward the advice and business lessons we have learned along our creative journeys.
we talk to artists, leaders, and art professionals to demystify the creative process and discover new ways to succeed as a career-minded artist.
If you find value in these conversations, please go ahead and subscribe. This will help other creatives like you find our podcast, and you will be notified when we drop a new episode every Tuesday.
On today's episode, we are so excited to have Bethany from Riverbank Art Studio and Lauren Cooper from Rosemont Lane. Welcome, Bethany and Lauren.
Thank you.
Hi. Yes, we're so excited to have you on the podcast today. We're excited to discuss your journey from corporate to muralist and learn more about your very exciting upcoming mural conference, Rooted. But real quick, before we dive into all these fun conversations, let's go ahead and share a bit more about your background for our listeners who may not be familiar with you or your work.
So Bethany is the owner and lead artist at Riverbank Art Studio, a mural-focused business she founded after leaving a successful corporate career. With a background in painting and a graduate degree in business management, Bethany combines her artistic talents with her business acumen to deliver strategic, impactful murals for clients and the community. Since she started painting murals in 2021, her work has gained traction through word of mouth, allowing her to build a team of talented women who assist in painting, design, and sales. In addition to running her studio, she is the host of Rooted, a muralist conference focused on empowering female muralists and helping them grow their business through connection and education. Her approach blends professionalism, creativity, and mentorship to uplift others in the mural industry.
And speaking of the mural conference, we are excited to also be joined by one of the folks that is helping with the conference, Lauren Cooper. She's a self-taught artist, muralist, and designer, born and raised in Los Angeles. She studied journalism in college, but it wasn't until she started Rosemont Lane that it finally all clicked for her, because she's always been a storyteller, and now she and her team get to do that through art. And of course, ladies, this is a formal introduction for our listeners, but how would each of you describe your work for someone who has never seen it before? We'll start with you, Bethany.
I would say diverse and strategic. I am not the mural artist who has the very unique style where people know what they're going to get or flock to that artist for a particular style. I mold to my clients. And all of my murals and all the clients that I work with, which are primarily commercial clients, have a very strategic objective that we accomplish through the use of art and murals. So for me, diverse and strategic, those are the two best words that really capture my focus and the right client for me.
I love that. How about you, Lauren?
I would say from afar and all together, I always try to incorporate something that's whimsical and playful, definitely large scale and more on the side of abstract, being that I'm a self-taught artist. I always design what I know I can paint. But I do relate with Bethany a lot on this because I think that coming in as a muralist and just deciding I'm going to paint murals all of a sudden, I knew that I could kind of hop into the visual driver's seat of my clients and be able to create art for them that represents them as a brand, represents who they want to attract themselves to. And so being that I started a lot with small businesses and Airbnbs, and then now going into schools, I wear that hat as well, where I'm really focused on client art first and taking the back seat. But I like it that way. I think that it honestly makes it a little bit easier, and then I can adapt to other people, their needs, and always am trying something new. So I love it.
Not gonna lie,
Perfect.
I do sometimes get jealous of the artist who has a very specific style and they don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time. I was told by a very, very tenured woman who has a mural artist business in Austin, Texas, and I met her. She's been doing it for 25 years. She's like an OG in Austin. And I met her and I assisted for her on a job. And she said, "We have it the hard way because we have to reinvent the wheel every single time we design. And she said that like the month that I went full time was when we met. And yeah, those words keep ringing in my ear for the last 2.5 years. I'm like, yep, she called it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's definitely different ways to go, which is why we love to have, muralists and artists of all different disciplines on here to have our listeners see like there's so many different paths you can go, and they're all different, and none of them are better than the other necessarily. It's more like
Absolutely.
what fits for you and your life, the way you do art. Which actually, before I get keep going down that path, that does remind me. I do want to dive a little bit into basically a little bit into your journey, Bethany, real quick. Let me ask you, when did you become interested in art, and did you envision paintings and murals being part of your future job at some point?
No, not at all. Um, I was doodling all the time as a kid. Um, and it wasn't until middle school art when I had a wonderful art teacher. We were doing, black and white pencil, and we were doing middle school like art contests. And she told my parents that they should put me in with the high school art teacher who does lessons. And so I did that, and my journey like truly took shape in high school, and it formed my path to major in art in college. And one of my projects in high school actually paid for 3 years of college. But I was never the artist, even as a little kid. Like I vividly can remember walking up to my mom and being like, what should I draw? She's like, I don't know, draw whatever you want. No, like tell me what to draw. Like I never wanted to be the visual, like blank slate, just create type of artist. That's just not the way my brain functions. I'm very left, right brain balance. So it's like always at war to just create. To be, I love to have parameters and guidelines and like an objective that I'm accomplishing in my art, which is why it's so wonderful that I found my niche. Um, and then after art college, I quit painting for many years. So no, I did not envision painting and murals as part of my job. I didn't know murals was a job option or career path at all. Wish I would have. So I'm very passionate about talking to high schoolers and college students to let them, touch, feel, and see a real live full-time artist that's not starving. It's a big passion of mine. And it really took shape by finally getting on social media and seeing a couple mural artists, being inspired by them and being like, whoa. And I just connected to one person and by her story and her journey, like, she's like really making it. This is incredible. And then that just kind of opened up a whole other world for me.
That's absolutely amazing. And I think we've talked to many other artists before too on that very common narrative of having a large break from your creative practice, especially I think after academia or after hitting some kind of milestone and then just taking a break.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what got you back into being creative again, especially with your first mural? Because in less than a year after your first corporate mural, you actually left your corporate career to pursue it full time.
Yes.
So tell us a
Yes.
bit more about that.
Yeah, it's actually a very beautiful story, and very interesting just how everything kind of happened. Um, my good friend and coworker at the time lost her father very suddenly, and it was her best friend. And at this point, I'd been at this company that I loved for 5 years at that point. And nobody that I worked with knew that I was an artist.
Mm.
Uh, did not say anything. I didn't talk about it. I wasn't painting at the time. I started off that with that job and started off in that career. It was my first like quote unquote big girl job after getting my master's, right? It was like my first job after doing that. And so I was like, I need to hide that bachelor's and the tiniest font on that resume. Like I need it to be there, but like please not big enough where they can read that it's a fine arts degree in painting because then I'll lose all credibility. So it wasn't until like I just wanted to hide that portion and be like, but look at the masters, right? Like, here's proof I can do it, you know? And so 5 years in, nobody knows that I paint. I, like many people, decided to play around with paint again during COVID because what else do you do? And I reached out to my friend after her father passed away and I said, what can I do for you? Is there anything I can do? I'm not a big cooker, but I'm like hoping she was going to say like, yeah, I could use like 10 meals or whatever. Instead, she's like, can you do a portrait of my dad? And I'm like, literally anything else. You name anything else, I will do I'll cook for a month. I don't know. I don't know how. I will figure it out. Like, just don't make me paint someone that you love. Like, there's no way. I'd had people reach out to me that did know I was an artist during my little hiatus and be like, can you paint my dog? And I'm like, absolutely not. And they're like, why? I'm like, because you know what your dog looks like. Like, I'm not, no, I'm not. That's a pass or fail. Like, I'm not doing it. And so I was convicted and did end up doing some art of her father, which led to her asking me then to do one of her mother-in-law who passed away the year prior. And those were two very personal pieces where I actually had the privilege of delivering it to the spouses that lost their loved one, and talk about waterworks and like a reminder that art doesn't have to be perfect, but there's something different about how you connect to a painted piece than you do a photograph of the exact same image that's perfectly realistic. And so those are pivotal moments that then led to tons of dog paintings for my coworkers. Meanwhile, I'm at this company. That's when I like became Riverbank Art Studio just as a sole proprietor. I wanted to do everything the right way, so I had my EIN. I had everything done. I'm like, if somebody's going to pay me for a dog painting, like it's going to be done the right way. So I was very strategic right from the beginning of being an official business. And then I did my first mural for a friend. She posted a picture of the hallway where her kids' bedrooms were. It was like this awkward space where she's like, hey, like all my friends, like, I don't know what to put here. Like, it's just blank. And like, do I put a piece of furniture? Do I do whatever? And I was like, I have an idea. And literally was like, sent her like an inspo image of something I'd seen. I'm like, I think something in this direction would be really cool. And I could paint that. She's like, oh my gosh, done. So I'm painting for her. And that was my first mural ever. And well, as Riverbank Art Studio, turns out if I look back at my life, I literally was painting murals when I was 18 and like didn't like starting college and was doing a whole bunch of stuff. So funny that like literally that was just like didn't occur to me at the time. Like I literally was painting murals, getting paid for it for a studio, and didn't think that I didn't see myself that way. So I'm glad that like that vision or that dream was deferred because I'm glad I didn't pursue it back then, because at that point in my life, I wouldn't have had the confidence, skills, or tools to take with me and be successful now. And so maybe I would have tried it then and failed and then gone, oh, I guess it wasn't for me, when it really was just about timing. So I'm really glad that I was kind of like blinded to this life and this career path. And so did the first mural. That gave me a little confidence. And then 1 month later, I was doing my first commercial mural for Black Swan Yoga and bartered free years of yoga for me and my husband.
Nice.
Of which I've used twice in 3 years. So I was really just there to get exposure and to practice painting a mural. And from there, I was like, okay, it's official. The mural bug hit me and I'm in. Let's do this. So I used all my PTO days and the word of mouth grew. And I had several jobs that just put me more and more on the map and opened my eyes to scale. And, finally had the ability to go full time after lots and lots of finance conversations. And, okay, we've built our life on dual income and there's expectations and there's financial obligations that I have to meet. So I told my husband, give me 3 months. Give me 3 months to break even and make what I'm making in the corporate world corporate world salary plus 401k plus pension matching, like whole benefit package. Said, give me 3 months. And if by the end of the second month, I'm not accomplishing that, then I will start applying so that all of month 3, when I'm still bringing in income from painting murals, I will be working on finding another job. My resume is locked in. I'm not going to have a hard time getting a job, but I can't not try this. And yeah, month 1, I was already making more than I was in the corporate world. So rest is history.
Wow. Wow. I love the parallels. You and I have so many parallels, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners do too. It's not even funny because I was in corporate finance, investment
Mhm.
finance, and similarly, I kind of left with the idea and had similar conversation with my husband of like, I'm gonna treat this almost like a sabbatical,
Mm.
or an extended vacation. I am going to leave. We left things that they were asking me if I was willing to do part-time, and they normally don't. Um, so it was like we were on good terms. I was like, I will burn no bridges, but I
Mhm.
was like, I need to try this art thing. I can't not try. So very, very similar. But then of course there was, at least when I left, my timing and yours was very different because I left right before COVID started. So no crystal ball there. That would have been nice to have a different perspective on that one. But I did want to ask you about, I mean, you answered some of this already, about how Riverbank Art Studio, came to life, of course, some of those moments that happened. Um, but were there any early things that stand out to you of things that happen in those early days of growing your business? Any little tidbits?
Um, I hustled so hard, like truly hustled so hard. And they say hungry dogs run faster. And I did that to the nth degree. It was like I was determined, and it always worked out. And I'm going to be honest because I think other people need to hear this. If you're thinking that like these famous artists or ones that are making 6 figures or have a ton of followers, that oh my goodness, they're booked 3, 4, 5 months out. That's not the case. That isn't the case. And to this day, I still don't know where my next 30 days of revenue are going to come from when I close out a month. Um,
Mhm.
and that happened to me, in the beginning. And I thought, okay, well, once I'm been doing this longer, once I have more, experience under my belt, then it's going to be so nice to be booked 3, 4, 5 months out. Still is not the case. And so, but I kind of like it now. I've accepted it, and I think it's beautiful because I feel like it allows us to not get complacent and to stay hungry and to stay motivated and to continue to push yourself. But I always would, in the beginning, would close out a month. So my first full month of full time was September of 2022. And I remember going into September with one job booked. And when I left my corporate job on August 27th, and I was like, okay. And when I quit my job that last day, I had one job booked for September, but I ended up ending the month of September with, I think, 14 clients, like executed, like painted clients, like not contract signed clients. And, which led to me, being very tired. Like
Bet.
so incredibly fulfilled and excited and like on cloud 9. Um, it was so wonderful because I was like, for once in my life, I'm able to exceed expectations, blow past goals, and I am rewarded for it rather than, my boss just telling me thank you.
Mhm.
Like I'm actually getting something from my desire to be an overachiever. Like, wow, who knew I was meant to be an entrepreneur my entire life? Now I'm never going back. Like I love it. And so for me, I hustled so hard because I had something to prove to myself. And I had something to prove to my husband who took this chance on me. And I had something to prove to other members of immediate and extended family, of whom will remain nameless, that like thought I was not making a great decision, and now are super proud. And, I used to be in banking, and I would always want the customers that came in upset and mad about something, because I loved turning someone from being angry to, happy, satisfied, whatever. I loved changing things like that. And so for this, that's what it was for me. Like, I'm going to take these non-believers, I'm going to prove them all wrong. And I hustled so hard to do that, and I still do. And I mean, I have examples. I have different, jobs that were kind of turning points for me that came from totally random, coincidences, because I just did not let any rock go unturned. And I, took everything I could, and had a strategy behind it, right? So I knew that, okay, for this job, I can't pass up on this opportunity, and this could help and be used for XYZ, for growth, for scalability, for exposure. So I'm going to give them a discount, and I'm going to give them a lower price, but I'm not saying here's my rate. I'm saying my rate is X, but I'm giving you a discount, so that then overnight I can go right back to the rate that I'm worth, not what I gave it to them for. And, really leveraging that. So I don't know, there were definitely turning points, and jobs that made a big difference for me. Was, I have one that was my first public, mural, and that was a huge turning point. That's the George Strait mural, which is big. And then, shortly after that, I was getting flown to Atlanta for,
Nice.
a large mural in the corporate headquarters for the people that make Frontline and HeartGuard for your dogs and your pets. So it was just definitely big turning points, and that one was super random how that one came about. But yeah, it's just fun. Work hard. I don't know, hustle.
Yeah, and I think that's such great advice, especially refreshing hearing that, even obviously having a lot of experiences under your belt and a lot of wonderful success, still keeping that hunger and that fight alive. I love the way that you see that. I think oftentimes people have that mindset of, oh yeah, well, I'll just be 6 to 8 months booked out. I'll be coasting. Things will be good. But I think that's one of the appeals of an art business, is that you are always being challenged, having to look for creative solutions and question, is this still in line with what I want to be doing? That always keeps it exciting and keeps you hungry and motivated. But also, to your point, making sure that it's still intentional and strategic, which I'm sure comes with your business management degree, which I want to
Yes.
touch on a little bit, especially with your corporate experience. Like, how do you
Yeah.
feel like that education has influenced ways that you navigate and operate Riverbank Art Studio?
Oh, without a doubt, it's the number one contributor to my success.
Mhm.
That mixed with, work ethic that is just a part of who I am. But without the business mindset and like the business worldview and the long-term thinking, and truly like a CEO mindset, I wouldn't be where I am today as quickly as I am. And so it's absolutely been vital. And if I didn't have that, um, that'd be hard. It'd be a totally different game. But that's why I know, and I see, and I realize there are so many things that just 100% come very natural to me. After being in cold sales, and literally I used to be the person that would walk into doctor's offices, 20 doctor's offices a day, talking about the provider group I worked for. So I wasn't a pharma rep, but I was a physician liaison. So I'm literally going in, being told no to my face a million times every single week, and having to say, okay, cool, but how am I going to get Susan to finally talk to me, and then get me to talk to Dr. So-and-so, and converting people. So once again, hey, you're telling me no. Yeah, actually, you're just saying not yet, and I'm going to find a way to turn it from a no to a yes. So, like, no's do not scare me. I see it as a challenge. I love it. You do have to be really innovative in how you're going to you know, get into those clients back there. And so there's that. Then I moved into more of the strategy side of things and not in boots on ground. And then from there it was operations. And then I was coding and creating big reports. And it was all about, tangible visual impact. So the business management 100% comes easy to me. And I realized that that is not everybody's strength. And for me, that's kind of the whole point. And the reason I'm even in this career field to begin with is because I surrounded myself with a community of people whose strengths were my weaknesses and vice versa. So I love empowering, coaching, teaching. If anybody drops in my DMs, I am always open book and give them all the tools. And I want to like touch on something else from the last question, which is when I do talk to people and they're like, I just don't know. I think I should look for a part-time job and whatever. I very boldly, unless there is like an immediate need and like they truly are starving or can't make their rent, I have always said, do not give yourself a second door. Do not give yourself an exit strategy. Like you have to be all in. If you know that you don't have to succeed at this, because then you can always try something else, you'll never give it everything. Once again, I will say the quote again, hungry dogs run faster. If you know that dinner time you're going to have kibble in your food bowl, you are not going to go out and scavenge and try to find the squirrel. Like it's just true. So, I don't know. I always recommend people don't have an exit strategy. You have to give it everything.
Oh, I love this so much. I love this so much. Yeah, I think that's part of why I had to do the deal with the hubs on the whole I'm taking a sabbatical instead of doing part-time because also as an artist with ADHD, I'm like I can't be too divided. I need to have I need to have some structure and I need to have like better focus slash mountains that I'm like navigating towards or areas I'm working towards.
Mhm.
And yeah, I knew too that I had to give it my all. And I couldn't be like, oh, I also have to figure out when I'm trading this shift with so and so at job today or tomorrow or when I'm gonna like that's too much. I needed to be able to go full ham, as they say, on the art side of
Mhm.
things. So it resonates. But yeah, I agree with you. I think it also depends on stage of life. Are you putting are you putting food in the mouths of kids? It definitely varies for people and what their financial responsibilities are like. But if you have any kind of parachute, dear Lord, just do it. Like just try it, give it your best. I
Exactly.
love that.
No,
Well,
and if you don't
I
have
do want to
other
bring
mouths,
in,
oh,
oh,
sorry.
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, even if you don't have other mouths to feed, like I've been doing some coaching calls with artists right now, and it's been very interesting. One of the questions I ask before we meet is like, what motivates you? Um, it's very interesting how, there have been some that like, I don't really know. Like, it's not money. It's not like I don't really need the job. Like I need, it was so interesting. I'm like, well, you got to find something. You have to have
Yeah.
something. You don't have something that motivates you. When you do get a no, you need something that forces you to pick yourself back up and keep running. And
Oh, yeah.
so you have to either create a motivator, you need to create that environment that's going to make you want to wake up each morning and have this just intoxicating, insatiable hunger for success, whatever success is for you. You have to create that. If it's not already like the immediate, I have to feed my children, then you need to create that
Hmm.
motivator.
I love to be
Yeah.
an
Basically creating a
artist.
reality.
Yeah, I love to be like obviously I know like all the behind the scenes and everything, but like just sitting and listening as an artist, like I can't help it. I'm overly like, oh, what do I look like because I'm in my brain just like thinking and agreeing and like resonating so much, just like artist to artist, no matter where you're at in your career, hearing someone else's story and background, it's just yeah, it's so relatable. I think that I just wanted to quickly chime in with like that is the beauty of my version of that, which is like, what is your version of success? Because success is not a one fits all type of thing. And when you were talking about that analogy of a mountain, it took me about a year and a half into my business to realize that I'm not climbing different mountains. I just like have different peaks on that same mountain. And that's my visual reminder that like if I feel that I'm ever plateauing, I can kind of like carve out and notch my own place on that mountain of success and continue to rewrite and redefine what that means to me. And so like those that Q4 check-in that we have soon with Rooted, I'm really excited for constantly setting goals and making sure that you're just having that opportunity to like be in the driver's seat, which is, I think why all of us decided to become artists. So anyways, I'm just cheering you on over here being like, yes, yes, yes. This is the podcast I would want to be listening to.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, in this next question we have for Bethany, um, we'll just tell our listeners now, we definitely want to have Lauren for her own separate standalone episode because I think this is one we would like for you to answer on your own episode. But um, both of you actually have built teams of talented women around you, that can help with different areas of your business. At least as it relates to Riverbank Art Studio. Bethany, you have folks that help you with painting, with designing, with sales. We need to know, all three of us, all four of us have worked with, other artists as well. And of course, our listeners as well, if they're interested in doing this. Bethany, what has been your process for building and leading a team? And how has collaboration helped you expand your business?
Oh, it's everything. Here again goes the CEO mindset. For me, here I took this leap. I told you I'm pinching pennies truly and like keeping my expenses super low in those beginning formative months to make sure that I am, you know, hitting my net profit goals for each month to be able to continue our standard of living and our expenses. But I also very vividly understood the concept of time is money
Hmm.
and seeing that my time is a tangible commodity that yes, I'm not paying someone, but my time is extremely valuable. And so I was very quick to bring on assistants. I think it started even when I was doing it part time. And I think it helped because I was, like I said, using my paid time off and my PTO days to go and paint an Airbnb or paint for a restaurant. And I was like, I do not want to burn 2 days of paid time off. I want to use 1 day of paid time off here. So I'm bringing on my assistant. I'm bringing on at that point was my sister, who is an artist as well, not a mural artist, but a phenomenal artist. And I was like, cool, I'll teach you how to paint on a wall. No big deal. So like, let's show up. And we worked really well together. I was like, okay, well, if she's there with me, I know that I only need 1 day of paid time off.
Hmm.
So that instantly helped set that up for me of where I wasn't afraid to bring on assistants. I saw that, okay, why wouldn't I finish one job in 1 day instead of two? And my personal rate is a lot higher than what I pay assistants because there is so much more you do behind the scenes.
Hmm.
I'm the one carrying the insurance. I'm the one doing all the design and all the follow through and the risk and all of the other, liabilities that you're taking on. So, my personal rate is higher. So why wouldn't I hire less expensive assistance time and get a job done in half the time? To me, it's like a no-brainer. So even when I didn't have massive profit margins and I was still at the point in my career was like, okay, I'm going to Home Depot to buy supplies for this job only. Here's my single roller. Here's my single thing of whatever. No, not buying a gallon of white, like because I don't want to pay for a gallon of white. I'm going to buy the quart, right? But like that, it was just in like I am keeping my supply costs as low as possible, but I also still knew the value of bringing on a team and bringing on individuals that I could pay at a lower rate and get the job done faster, which means I could now work an additional job and have time freed up to do sales and do marketing and start painting a second mural. So if I, with having assistant, I now knew I could do 2 jobs in 1 week instead of one. That just doubles my revenue. So that for me, that's like number one is I think a lot of people are like, I don't make enough to start delegating. Oh, you absolutely do. And you actually are throwing money in the trash by not hiring people. So, for instance, let's say that you are a mural artist or you're a fine artist. It really doesn't matter. You're a creative. And you're just for easy numbers because we're artists, we're not math people. Let's say your personal rate like is $100 an hour as the person who owns the mural or owns the fine art, and you want to outsource some assistant work at maybe $25, $30 an hour, maybe $35 an hour. For any hour you work that they could have done what you just did, whether it was the base coats of painting or it was sending out basic emails or it was simple admin work or doing a couple posts on social media, any hour you work that you could have paid them 35 and instead you are doing it, you literally just took that $65 and threw it in the trash every single hour.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important for people to have that perspective on it and have that visual of throwing money away. And so I think it's important to take that leap before you think you're ready. It's not once you have high profit margins that you bring people on. It's that you won't hit high profit margins if you don't bring people on.
I love that so much. I can't even. Oh gosh, the gold in that. Repeat that, Bethany, for those in the back.
Yeah, it's it's not that you need to wait for high profit margins to bring people on. It's that you won't hit high profit margins if you don't bring people on.
That is such gold right there. And honestly, that has to be one of the lessons that I learned during my time in corporate was they would always say expansion requires delegation. And it is so true. Anything, I mean, even if you look at a mom and pop shop, it's not just one person. There's usually several people involved, and it actually ties into what we do. Also, offline before we started recording, we were talking about, having different zones of genius. This applies to that too.
Absolutely.
If you have a friend, say another muralist who is great at content creation, like Jackie, great at content creation, right? Like at filming and things like that. You might be like, let's trade, or, maybe if you're unsure about bringing someone else in. Like I said, I love the idea of bringing a family member that you get along with. That's important. That's definitely important. But also, it could be another artist friend, whether they're muralist or not, that you can be like, "Hey, this is a small opportunity. I'll teach you some of the ropes, behind it as we go along. And the budget on this one's small, so maybe it's pizza and beer as the payment this time around, but next time I can pay you an hourly." And throw in some lunch while we're at it or things like that. So it's like you could definitely trade services as well with other artists. But once you get into that role of like, wait, I could have paid somebody. Let's say you paint somebody that's a white wall painter that has a nice sprayer and they could have primed that wall in like what, maybe an hour versus you taping for hours on end and then all the edges and they could have just done it like super quick.
Yes.
Definitely worth it rather than spending half your day taping and
Absolutely.
trying not to get drips on everything when somebody else could have done it faster and maybe they're not even that expensive. Worth it.
Absolutely. I mean, my first month of being full-time, I hired a CPA because I was like,
Nice.
no, I'm not. I'm fine with numbers and spreadsheets and reporting and building visuals with pictures on visuals with numbers and how to be more strategic. But when it comes to the accounting and the tax side of things, all it took was like 2 times of me paying the, sales tax comptroller more than they were owed. And I was like, I'd rather
Oops.
pay a small business accountant to do this for me than pay them more. And it takes so much time and it's so stressful. And I hated every second of it every time. And I always thought I'm either going to jail or I'm overpaying. I don't know what's happening. So it was the first thing that I outsourced and it was the best. And now I've even upscaled, I leveled that up even more. Now I'm at a firm that is not just the mom and pop shop that is just better. They're saving me so much money because they're more well versed in all of the nuances of being a business. And yes, I think it's very important for artists to realize that solopreneur is not your goal. Solopreneur is not sustainable. Solopreneur is not profitable. Solopreneur leads to burnout. And solopreneur is very limiting. So it is not a badge of honor. It is a starting point that you need to quickly get out of. And I think it's just super vital for people to, like artists, they're like, I'm not a business person. I know you're not a business person, but you're running a business, whether you think so or not. And in order to make this where you get the time freedom and the lifestyle freedom and the career success, however you define it, there's a couple things that you just have to do. You have to put on the boss hat.
Thank you so much for listening to this conversation. We had so much fun talking to Lauren and Bethany about the CEO mindset necessary to run and grow a mural business. And we unpacked so many gems that we just had to split this conversation into 2 parts.
Yeah, we did. And next week, what we're going to do is we're going to be diving into the upcoming Rooted Conference in January for Muralists. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, for our listeners, if you want to stay connected with us in between episodes, share your feedback, or have a question you would like for us to answer on the podcast, you can reach us through social media. I'm at Amate Art across all platforms.
And I'm at J Sanders Studio on all platforms. And if you want to follow the podcast, we are at Level Up Artists on Instagram. Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you next week.